All right. Good morning, everyone. It is 11 a.m. And the Texas Early Learning Council is called to order. I'm Reagan Miller. I'm the chair of the Texas Early Learning Council and also the director of the Child Care and Early Learning Division at the Texas Workforce Commission. So welcome to members and guests. As we always do, we're producing this as a Zoom webinar. Council members, presenters, and agency staff are participating as panelists, while members of the public are able to participate in a listen-only mode. So as a reminder to members, presenters, and staff, please keep your electronic devices on mute when you're not speaking. Megan will also mute as needed. Megan is the Interagency Deputy Director of Early Childhood Support, and she's serving as today's meeting facilitator. Please try to remember to state your name each time before you speak for the record. And I want to remind everyone that the public had an opportunity to submit public comment that closed yesterday at 5 o'clock. If that was for written public comment, members of the public are still able to request to provide oral public comment at today's meeting by emailing the request to Megan Schneider, and Megan is going to drop those instructions into the chat. All right, so the next slide, we have our agenda for today. Perfect. And so we're going to move on to our approval of the January 2025 meeting minutes. Members, you received a copy of the meeting minutes in an email, and I want to see if any of the members have any edits or changes to those draft meeting minutes. Becky.
I was there and I'm not listed on the attendance sheet.
Thank you.
I was also there.
Maricela Nava was also in attendance.
And just
Sorry,
a quick clarification, we are perfectly happy to revise those. I think when folks join a little bit late and aren't there at the beginning when we call roll and do the minute approval, that's why you might not show up.
Thanks
But
for
happy
that
to revise
explanation.
them.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation, Megan. So members, always look at the meeting minutes if you're late to the meeting to confirm that your attendance is reflected. Okay. With those amendments, is there a motion to approve the January 2025 meeting minutes as amended?
This is Kim Coffin, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Jennifer Stockheimer. I will second.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And with that, pending any discussion, I don't believe we have any. I'm going to ask Megan to conduct a roll call vote and approval of the minutes.
All right, hello members. So when I call your name, please reply for, against, or abstain. And this vote will also serve as the roll call for this meeting. And as a reminder, even if you weren't present at the last meeting, you don't have to abstain. You can still say for to approve the minutes if you'd like to. All right, so for, against, or abstain. Sarah Abrahams.
For.
Truthy Arismendez.
For.
Weldon Beard.
For.
Harry Breeden. April Crawford. Thought I saw April join.
She is here. She's on mute.
We'll come back around to you, April.
For. Sorry.
Okay, great. Alfrema Giles. Melissa Hoisington. Becky Huskeeler.
For.
Kim Coffrin.
For.
Ori Lee.
For.
Beatrice Mata.
For.
Reagan Miller.
For.
Maricela Nava.
For.
Stephanie Rubin. Amber Sconlin. Kirsten Schwab.
4.
Jennifer Stockmer.
4.
Megan Young.
4.
All right, great. The motion to approve the January 2025 meeting minutes as amended has carried, and we also met a quorum. And I will
Wonderful.
pass it back to you, Reagan.
Only for me to pass it back to you because you are going to facilitate our next agenda item, which is public comment.
All right, so as a reminder, we are always happy to have folks commenting publicly. We did not receive any registrations for public comment this month, but we always post the agenda on earlylearningtexas.org in our meetings section, and speakers can have 3 minutes to speak. So I don't see anything that came in this morning by email either, so I'll pass it back to you, Reagan.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to our next agenda item, it's the Texas Early Learning Strategic Plan. So as a reminder, as part of our most recent preschool development grant, PDG grant, we did update the Early Learning Strategic Plan, and we are sharing progress updates at each of our council meetings. So the strategic plan is divided into 4 goals, and today, I need to go to the next slide. Today, we're going to hear updates on actions related to Goal 1, family access, navigation, and engagement, and on Goal 2, workforce recruitment, retention, and support. So on Goal 1, family access, navigation, and engagement, we're going to be looking at strategy 1.1, streamline intake and administrative systems for parents and providers to make it easier for families to navigate early learning programs and services. And then action 1.1 is simplifying the application practices by launching a common eligibility screener. And I think Kathy Arwood is going to give an update on our progress on this action item.
Yes, so if you want to go to the next screen or the next slide. So we are excited to talk about our eligibility screener. As some of you may know, this is a project that's funded by the Preschool Development Grant Birth Through 5, and it's a joint project. So Texas Workforce Commission, Texas Education Agency, and the Texas Head Start State Collaboration Office are working together with a vendor to develop an eligibility screener. And this tool will assist parents in understanding if they're eligible for child care scholarships, public pre-K, and or Head Start or early Head Start, so they could be eligible for all 3. It will then give them next steps to take, so a link to an application or to additional information about how to find their, a Head Start center near them or their school district. And so for now, we're in the development phase, and we have conducted 2 focus groups. We've got 2 more to conduct next week. Excuse me. So we're going to conduct focus groups with parents. Yes, or 2 days ago, I think we conducted one with child care providers, and that included center and home-based providers. We have one upcoming for parents and child care providers that are Spanish speakers. And we are also, or we actually already met with some eligibility specialists from all 3 programs. So Head Start grantees, I think there was someone from an ESC, Educational Service Center, and an ISD, as well as from the local workforce boards that administer child care services. So we're really excited to get this project going, and it is scheduled to launch this summer on earlychildhood.texas.gov, which is our family-facing site that encompasses a lot of different state and local programs. That's it. Happy to take any questions if you have any. Reagan, you're on mute.
Thank you, Kathy. So members, any thoughts, comments, or questions as we're working on developing this new eligibility screener? All right.
It's a general question I have is, do you think I mean, are you seeing already that it's really going to help reduce like asking families for duplicate information and kind of better aligning how each agency collects information?
So I think, April, I don't think we're there yet. I think what we're looking at is something that's really going to help families figure out what programs they're eligible for so that they can
Okay.
go in, put in some information. It's going to tell them, it looks like you're probably eligible for this. Then they have to click on that, which takes them to the application for that
Got it.
specific project. In order for us to develop like an integrated application system,
Mhm.
we would have to link to every program's eligibility system.
Okay.
So TWC has one eligibility system,
Mhm.
so you would link to ours, but if you had to link to Head Start, obviously you have
Go there.
multiple programs, and same with pre-K. So this is sort of step one in trying to help families really understand what they're eligible for. Stephanie.
I was gonna build on that a little bit, and get a sense from you about how you were thinking of tracking the impact of it. Is it, I mean, you'll know how many clicks come in there, but how will you kind of know whether this ends up helping parents get to a program? I guess is there some evaluation built in? And then even though you can't, you might not be steering them towards the application process for anything. Is there a thought in the future about connecting it with whether it's, adding in something about ECI, adding in something about Medicaid, adding in something about SNAP, whether that there's some like future potential there in a cross system way?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think there's future potential. We had to start with something. So, we've started here. But yeah, I certainly think we have opportunities to determine how
Right.
how this can grow. And you're right, we can track click-throughs. Obviously, we can see, you can always look at like the average length of time that people spend on a page so that if they're spending a little bit of time, they're likely filling out, the information for the eligibility screener, and then you can track, click-throughs to see did they follow those recommendations.
Yeah.
Jennifer.
I was curious how the participants were recruited for the 4 focus groups.
Kathy, is that something you can address?
Yes, so for the childcare providers and parents, we had well, actually there was a couple of different ways. For childcare providers, we did a survey in, I think it was February 2024. And part of that survey, we asked if people would be interested in participating in focus groups or providing more information. So we just took a sample of those from various regions and reached out and just kept reaching out until we got enough folks that agreed to participate. And then we used, we received some parent names that way as well. We also reached out to the Texas Head Start State Collaboration Office and TEA to help provide some additional names. And I believe we also reached out to ECI and some of the parents on their advisory council participated as well. So just kind of did a cross-agency group. We were trying to recruit at least 12 from each category. And I think our groups have been a little bit smaller than that with who actually showed up, but that's kind of our methodology for recruiting.
Right.
Thank you.
Becky?
Yeah, I couldn't find out where to put where the little hand thing is on my
I
end.
saw your hand.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks. My question would be, how are you now? It's going to launch, but how do people know about this? Because these are a lot of different entities, and this is wonderful. I mean, it's great. But how does the parent in the field or the general parent know about this? I mean, of course, Head Start, and I know they're recruiting right now for Head Start from my practicum students are saying that they're out there, but how do parents find out about this?
So we are, I mean, I think it's going to be a multiple step process, right? So with TWC, we'll be launching communications. So on probably social media, we've got some other resources. And then, I imagine that schools and the Head Start grantees will also want to promote this. So we haven't gotten to that step yet in our project where we're really pushing for that, but we will be promoting it widely.
Yeah, and I think this is a great avenue that members can help as well. When information like this is available, if we can develop some social media posts, some one-page collateral that can be shared with parents that all of you interact with, I think we've got some great opportunities to try to help push the word out. Good question. All right, any other thoughts, comments, questions? All righty. Thank you, Kathy. We are going to now move on to our next update on Goal 2, Workforce Recruitment, Retention, and Support. And we'll be looking at Strategy 2.2 and 2.4. You'll see there on your screen. Early Learning Pathways and Early Learning Professionals. And April Crawford, co-director of the Children's Learning Institute, is going to discuss how her team is supporting Goal 2.
I thought I would just, because I think we've had some new members join, and it's been a while since we talked about TechPeds. I just wanted to give just a very brief overview of who TechPeds serves and kind of what it does before I dive right into the very specific updates. So the platform is designed to support really 3 key user groups: workforce members, who we'll focus on a lot in today's update, people and organizations that offer support or resources to the workforce, and then a third group of individuals or organizations that want to learn more about the state of the workforce. So today we're really going to focus on career pathways and what we're doing to support workforce members who want to explore and learn more. And the kind of big components of TechPeds are the Texas Workforce Registry, the Texas Trainer Registry, a set of core competency resources linked to specific professional roles, career pathway tools to help you learn more about how to advance in a particular role, and then a certificate generation tool that helps everybody who delivers training in the system to kind of standardize and more efficiently help our workforce get their records into TechPeds. Let's see. Okay, and then this is really just kind of showing for workforce members, the kind of big vision is to have TechPeds viewed as kind of a career hub, kind of my place I can go to understand the range of jobs that exist in this landscape, access professional learning recommendations, and learn how to strengthen their competency. It's where they can find information and resources to help them pursue education or credentialing opportunities, and ultimately a place to come to connect with other early childhood professionals. Next. So kind of in this career hub vision, there are really 3 types of tools and resources for workforce members to access on TechPeds. This kind of first bucket includes resources that educate you about the range of positions in the landscape. It includes information about specific career pathways and has some tools to help you plan for your future. The second bucket includes resources and tools that connect users to professional development and educational opportunities, helps them connect with other professionals working in the field, and provides personalized reports and recommendations. And then in the future state, we are looking at ways to have it also connect you to information that's available about scholarship opportunities or incentives. And then the third bucket is TechPed's recognition pathway opportunities. And these are competency-based credentials that help workforce members show they have knowledge and skills aligned to specific roles. And the current roles being supported on TechPeds are trainer, coach is coming this summer, I'll show you in a minute, and early educators. So most of these components are in some state of already being implemented on TechPeds. Others are being designed and rolled out this year through TWC supported projects. And then there's, some things that we already kind of have envisioned for, even FY27 that would keep kind of expanding this kind of vision of a career hub. The next slide. So this is, now this is a very specific strategy linked to that larger vision. So I'll show you more specifically what we're doing to achieve this goal, but the brief update is that we've completed the trainer updates that integrate competency recognition into the trainer pathway. And we're kind of in the process of, we've published the criteria for educator credentials and a pathway for level 1, 2, 3. And then we're rolling out the actual recognition supports for level 1. And then the coach pathway is being launched in the summer. Um, 2.2.2 is focused on expanding the range of roles that are included and covered on TechPeds. And it's intended to have us provide a deeper level of information about pathways to better guide the workforce. So the brief update on this one is that we're conducting a career pathways and trajectories landscape analysis right now, and I'll show you more details about it in a second. And then at the end of that process, we'll publish a report laying out everything we've learned, and we'll use the findings to create new resources and tools so we can support the workforce in exploring the various roles and pathways that are available to them. So this next set of slides will kind of dive into how we're achieving this. So the landscape analysis is happening now, where our goal is to survey 3,000 workforce members. The majority of those we're targeting individuals working in school-based settings in various roles that are actually working in schools. And then I think it's about a third of our sample will be members in other roles that are not school-based, but are still part of this early childhood landscape. So the bullets you see here are kind of the big buckets of role types that will be doing more, to showcase on TechPeds. So early childhood educators, pedagogical and instructional administrators, business operations or operations administrators, family, child, and health well-being. And then there's kind of a final bucket of other roles where there aren't as many individuals in the system who are in these roles, but they're still, widely recognized roles for early childhood professionals. So the survey's out now. I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a minute, but essentially we're gathering information from all of these role types around what's kind of their motivation to work in the early childhood field. What have been some of the major transitions they've had in their career? What are some of their aspirations and future roles that they've considered? And then we'll collect a lot of, basic information about their wages, benefits, working hours, their perceptions of, their satisfaction and state of working in that role. And all of that will kind of go into some really nice career or job profiles where we'll actually include like some personas that help us kind of think about, well, who is attracted to this field and who stays in this field and who transitions into more advanced roles across their career span. Then there's a smaller group of people, 200, that will gather information from through semi-structured interviews, where we'll actually be able to take a much deeper dive into learning about, what were the kind of barriers to advancement for them in their career? What were the, kind of key supports if they were able to progress in their career? What are the key supports, that help them achieve that? And all of this will come together eventually to provide some nice information for us to put into career advisement materials, so people can, sort of accelerate what they know about how to advance in the career, and hopefully just help people see that this is a really large field with diverse positions in it. Yeah, so we can go to the next one. So the report we're creating with that phase 1 data will kind of be organized according. We're trying to, and this is a question for the council that maybe we'll come back to, but we use the term pathway a lot, but we don't necessarily, we haven't really defined what we mean by pathway. Pathways could mean all the various roles in the landscape, what's kind of depicted in this higher level here. It could mean understanding the education requirements, typical experience, information about income potential associated with specific roles, and what does it take to advance in that particular role in the field. That could be a pathway. And then there's a more granular level that on TechPeds we refer to as pathways, and that other, sometimes when we talk about a pathway, we're actually talking about a recognition or credentialing approach or pathway. So with this report, we'll create a lot of new interactive content for TechPeds to help people explore careers in early childhood. And I'll kind of walk through how the new pathways and advisement resources we're envisioning target these levels. So at the broader EC career landscape level, and this one starts to align nicely with the strategy, is users will be able to explore the range of roles in the landscape, requirements for entry, what are the typical trajectories of people who are working in the field, motivations, all those kind of higher level systems kinds of things that drive people, that help us with thinking through, like, how would we attract people to this field? How do we recruit and keep people engaged in the field? The next level, the specific profile level, this is where we really start to dive into the specific activities and information that are part of the TELC strategic priorities we're addressing. So this is like the level where users are going to learn more about typical qualifications for a specific role. Are they interested in being an educator? Are they interested in being a diagnostician? Are they interested in being a director for an early childhood program? They'll learn about average compensation, where the study has helped us refine a sense of earnings by region across the economic regions in Texas. We'll include that information. We'll include information about the related competencies and skills associated with that job or that role. And we'll also have these kind of personas from our interviews that help you kind of see, like, a day in the life. What's it like to work in this job? And then we'll also include links to career support resources if you want to learn more. At the most granular level, this is where we actually have recognition pathways. So the other kind of vision of that is we help educate you about the pathways and the opportunities and what to do next. TechPeds also has some very specific recognition pathways. We have those for trainers, and we've just released more recently a version of the trainer approval pathway where we've embedded competency demonstration along with the levels. So you've actually seen demonstrations of their work as they receive these higher levels of recognition. On the pathway, we have this implemented now for Educator 1. And this image is just an example of how the educator pathway incorporates higher education, credentialing, higher education into the progression through the pathway. And then there's a competency-based pathway where you actually can demonstrate these skills in lieu of having seat time or earning a seat time in a training or another type of credentialing program. And then the coach pathway is a competency-based credential that is aligned to a competency framework. Coaches submit work samples, demonstrate the skills, and are recognized. And that will have 3 levels for coaching recognition. So if you could, yeah, so I think, where we're at now is we are trying to get, our aim is a representative sample for this first group of school-based educators. So we've actually pre-selected the schools that we are working to engage in responding to the survey. There will come a point where we're ready for a referral-based release of the survey for those non-classroom or non-school roles. So we would love the TELC support at that point in disseminating that survey through your network so we can get responses from people who aren't working at schools, but who work in the early childhood field. But that's, probably a month out before we would send that information to you all. So that's kind of the study that's leading to the expanded career pathway information on TechPeds that's, specific to TELC's aims. This career advancement through networking tool, I just wanted to kind of put it out here because it's one of the key ways we plan to disseminate information gathered from that landscape analysis. It's one of the key ways we plan to engage more professionals, like a broader range of professionals on TechPeds. So we're launching this this tool really very soon. It's called TechPeds Connect, and it will allow groups to create their own peer-initiated communities of interest. So for example, the TWC funds at the boards TechPeds subject matter experts. So they'll be one of the first groups that we look to engage through one of these groups. If the state has family childcare networks, other resource sharing networks, really it's going to be a nice set of tools and resources that let people connect with workforce members who are interested in connecting with other professionals in the field. It'll have nice question and answer forums. TechPeds will be moderating those forums initially. Lots of good tools and features there. And it also connects to 2.4.10, which I realized we aren't talking about today, but it's a great way to kind of also address that piece of the strategy. I think that is, yep. So this one we transition into the next strategy that Tracy Jones is going to hop on and help us with. It's around improving the usability of TechPeds, but do y'all want to talk about the other?
So I just want to see before we go on to that,
Yeah.
Are there thoughts, comments, or questions about the information that April just shared? And April, I do have a question. I'm trying to recall, it's been a while since I've looked at one of the annual reports that you put out. You had this slide that talked about the different level of requirements. I guess I'm trying to figure out what level of data are you collecting now from people who are voluntarily using the system? I recall that, there was some data that folks they weren't inputting because it's not required. I was just wondering what sort of data are practitioners willingly using TechPeds to help them with?
Yeah, I would say and Tracy, you can jump in and share specifically. I would say that there are some demographic fields that there are holes in, so if you're talking about identifying those types of characteristics of the workforce, those we have plenty of gaps in the data. And I'll show you a tool in the next set where we address usability that hopefully will help us get more data from individuals because it's going to make it so much easier to provide it. But I would say that we have a lot of professional training data. That's one of the, I think, key sources of information that workforce members choose to store. And through various automations with other organizations, we've built up a really robust set of records around training histories and the core competencies people are focused on. I would say, Tracy, you want to jump in for Texas Rising Star providers? There's a lot of data on a wide range of experience, you know,
And
where
I
you're
would
working.
I would expect a lot of on the training, because obviously there are annual training requirements. We've created the ability to link, you know, QR codes from trainings to automatically populate. When we were looking at career pathway levels, do you find that that data is in there so that if we were to look at the practitioners, you would get a general sense of what level on the career pathway, you know, are they just at, you know, well, you know what I mean, like what's the range of practitioners through all of those different levels?
Okay, I see what you're asking. Yeah, go ahead,
Oh,
Tracy.
okay, go ahead. Why
No.
don't you,
I think you should answer, Tracy, because I don't remember if we are automatically calculating the pathway level or if the user still has to kind of like mash the button to calculate the career pathway.
So a couple of answers here, Reagan. First of all, the 2023 data is up on TechPeds and can be looked at a county level or local workforce board level, and looks at both their education and their experience. So you can go in to this Power BI report and say, I'd like to see what the education level of our practitioners are versus our administrators in their county. So that is a very useful set of data that we collect. For the career pathways, it is automatically calculated. And we report that out to TWC every month. It's one of those fields that we collect. We do have requirements for each level. So it's really educating the user. I was just at a conference last week for TWC, and we had our career pathway signs out there, and it's really still educating those providers where they are on their levels, but it does automatically calculate. So we are collecting that data on an ongoing basis with date stamps on it. So you can potentially look at a user over time of what they were a year ago or what they are now if they're in the system. We do collect a few more fields of data than we previously did. So wages and salaries are now collected and time-stamped. Again, so over time, we can see changes in those providers that are perhaps connected to their career pathways. So eventually we'd like to produce reports that show as providers move through this career pathway, their salaries are increasing. I see Stephanie has her hand up.
Yeah, I thank you for this background, and TechPeds has grown so much since I first heard about it forever ago, so it's exciting. I had a question about and teachers in pre-K are included in this, or is this not just private child?
Correct. We have about 35,000 pre-K teachers in the system
So
that have connected.
Okay, yeah, so I was just going to say there is legislation this year in the House and Senate that would essentially remove the prohibition against out-of-school suspension for kids pre-K through second by the language. It's SB 6. I don't know. I'll have to look at the number. But it would essentially allow for out-of-school suspension for kids who just have repeat bad behaviors. And one of the things we've been talking about is, you know, we know how much early childhood educators want training and support for kind of behavioral challenges in the classroom. And so I was just wondering, just given that it seems like these bills will probably pass, and it would be wonderful to figure out how to get more support to these early learning educators so that the suspension is the last resort, even if it's allowed, and sort of think. I was just wondering whether TechPeds, the network, whether it's the networking part or the training, like could help fill a void in the supports available, whether they're early childhood mental health or they're just other kind of classroom management skills. I just want to throw that idea out there because I'm kind of concerned that we're going to get back to the place of, you know, a little bit more just, well, now I have this tool, so I'm going to use it because I don't know whether there's other resources available and I don't really know what to do as a teacher.
Yeah, I know that April was going to discuss a special data collection tool
Okay.
about supporting us in getting more specific missing data into the tool. As she said, we have really robust data for Texas Rising Star providers. We've seen our Texas Rising Star provider counts go up as we've now got the change in them getting points for having their teachers in the system too. So we've seen some rapid growth. And so we have really robust data for those providers. What we need is some further data on providers that maybe are separate from Texas Rising Star. And April, do you want to talk about the special data collection tool?
Say first, just to kind of build on a response for Stephanie, and Becky might remember the number, the strategy number, but a little later today, I think we're going to provide a very high level update on a strategy related to TELC putting together a set of training resources, links to referrals to training resources to support addressing challenging behaviors, supporting, you know, social emotional development. So a lot of maybe we need to include some explicit links to trainings for the, you know, what you're discussing, like alternatives to expulsion. And I think naturally that subject matter will align with that. And what we've talked about is TechPeds is a good place. We can build a catalog that TechPeds can keep updated, and it will be really easy for people to push out. It can definitely go out through the networking tool. And that's a great place for like behavioral health consultants, people who can support with these kinds of topics. So I think we are going to try to use TechPeds to disseminate high quality training opportunities.
Good. Yeah.
To address that
Sounds
topic.
like something that schools would, if they don't really know where to go, that's a good resource for the teachers rather than, you know, as maybe as a part of in-school suspension, if you have to remove a child for a little while, but, you know, making sure the teachers are equipped to welcome the child back into the classroom in a way where they're in a way that they stay, right, and thrive. So thank you.
And we definitely, in the educator pathway, the educator one, it prioritizes the types of competencies and behaviors that help a teacher feel equipped to, you know, work with a child who may have some more challenging behaviors. And then as you kind of move up to like the educator two, there are even more sort of strategies around, you know, how to handle situations like that appropriately. So we're trying to kind of embed it early in the educator path, thinking of it as foundational training. And I agree, like for the public schools, I think the key will be to make sure when we create this electronic catalog of courses that address those topics, we'll have to make sure we are thoughtful about how to position it in front of districts.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right, so now are we ready, Tracy, to go to your slides?
I believe that we are going to be on the educator usability updates.
Usability. Yep. Now we're ready for usability. Yep. So just for some larger framing, in 2023, TWC funded a usability study for TechPeds, an independent study to go out and really get close to users and understand what some of the pain points were for using the site, how could it be improved, what did they like about it, what did they not like about it, and then for the last couple of years, really, we've been digesting those recommendations, and this year TWC funded specific improvements to the platform that were informed by those study recommendations. So this is, these are just high level bullets for some of the key improvements that are being made that are in alignment with the usability study and with the feedback we got directly from users. So a first thing that is being improved, making it more usable for people is we're adding a third language. So the site's contents will now all be available in Vietnamese. We're adding enhanced record sharing functionality. So it is easier for people to share the data they need to share with someone, with their employer, with, you know, whomever. The owner of the record now will have much easier ways of sharing that information. We're improving data collection tools for uploading and updating career records. I'll show you a little bit more on the next slide about that. And then there's a collections tool that Tracy was kind of providing a preview of that will help users fill in gaps in their data without having to go into the platform and navigate around and find things. There are a lot of enhancements to user reports, to summaries, and to the data visualizations that we're providing through the platform. And then we've also done some work to embed evaluation surveys directly into the certificate generation tool. So if we can go to the next one, Tracy, I think you can probably speak better to the kind of streamlining.
Absolutely. So we took that usability study and the feedback that we've received from both providers out in the field that we talked to, our tech paired specialists that have utilized the tool and have now a really deep knowledge of how the system works. And in January, we published a new dashboard with an improved layout so that users can have a better experience. And number one is a much simpler view of the system. It is color-coded now and has group actions together. So the first set of tools are tools that everybody uses in the system. The second set of tools that you can partially see there are certificate generation tools. It just allows the user's eye to catch the important things that we want them to do. A lot of the features were kind of hidden before. Now they're right out in front of you. We changed language so that it's much easier for the person that's in the classroom or the administrator to look at this and know what action to take next. And we put it in order so that when you take a look at this dashboard, you know that you're going to upload your records. You know that you're going to look at your reports. You are going to connect to your center. For administrators, it's very much a step 1, step 2, step 3 of using those fields. As April just said, the Vietnamese will be coming in May. One of the biggest changes on the system so far is the ability for providers to now share their records with others in a very safe, secure, password encoded way, allowing a provider to email a report to someone safely and securely. Maybe they're looking for another job position, or connect their reports to organizations. I think a really good example of this is if they're seeking a wage supplement program or a scholarship with Texas AYC or a local workforce board, they can allow the local workforce board to see their reports to track that progress over time. And then anytime they're ready, they just disconnect. They're no longer going to be connected with that system. And it is all being designed with mobile friendly in mind. There has been some work done in 2025 to really enhance the mobile friendly features. And we're hoping in 2026 to include those features in the design as well. But moving towards those designs as we're able, working on each component. Next slide.
Updates. Intelligent document processing might sound boring, but it's actually really, really cool and great for users. So one of the things we really saw that we needed to do is continue reducing the burden for getting data into the system. Part of it is it was, very time consuming to go in and actually Go into a field for education and enter the answer. Go into a field for, so you actually had to go in and enter all of these data elements yourself, and then you can upload a copy of that document to kind of store in your record. And what the intelligent document processing does is it uses machine learning you can upload a photograph, lots of different file types. Let's say it's your transcript or a training record. You upload the document and the tool extracts all of the relevant data that's matched to the TechPeds fields and displays it for the user to just confirm that these are their details. And it does this with incredible accuracy. And then it stores your document for you in that same process. So it is going to dramatically cut down on, what it takes to get your information into TechPeds. So we're very excited about that. The new
I
data.
will say,
Oh, yeah.
April,
Tracy. Yeah.
I will say, when we've announced this to users in the field at conferences, there has been a round of applause for the system. They're very excited about it. And one of the biggest changes in this is you can upload one record that has multiple documents in it. So instead of having to tediously put in each record, you can upload one really big document with maybe 100 records in it, and it will extract it and place it for you. So not only does it allow the user less burden, it also improves accuracy in that it goes into the right section, instead of a user maybe placing a document into the wrong section and our staff having to remove it and place it where it really needs to go. So it's very much more efficient as well.
The data collection tool, again, this is another way that we're improving usability by saving users. So for example, Reagan, if there's key information missing that you all need for a report, let's say there's, too large a percentage of the users have failed to report their education status. Instead of us trying to outreach workforce members and guiding them to go into the application and find that field and add the information, we can use this new data collection tool to send them an email and send them a message, and it tells them specifically that TechPeds is requesting that they update this specific field of information. All they have to do is answer it right there, and it goes straight into the TechPeds database. So, I mean, there's more complexity, obviously. I'm oversimplifying because I'm not technical, but it essentially, the user does not have to go to the site and navigate through the platform to find the field where they need to put missing information. It's a way for us to more proactively kind of scan the data and say, look, hey, we need to increase the responses to this specific type of field. And then we can just engage with them through a more familiar, easy access way to communicate, email, and have them respond that way. So we're super excited about that too. And that's actually a tool that I think will serve us well. Like, for example, the study that we're doing right now, you can send out any kind of question through this tool and it brings the data back to the platform. So, and then Tracy, do you want to talk a little bit about the career profile report improvements? It looks amazing. So it's visually improved.
We have really spent a lot of time creating a report that will work for all users, whether that's for their own use, for professional development planning with their center directors, for the TRS assessors and childcare regulation inspectors. It will give a summary of the important data fields. It's going to allow more searchability. So I don't just get a full report with maybe 300 records. I can focus in. I want to see the last 2 years by hire date and give me some summary data about how many trainings I've taken. It will show the validation on there. So we try to make it as easy as possible to find the information that you need and display it in a very professional manner. It will have our logo on it for the Council for Professional Recognition, as we are a recognized entity for the reports being utilized to document CDA hours. So this report is going to be extremely helpful for those that are working towards CDAs as well.
I think that's that's the end of our slides.
Yeah. So this is a great update. Just so everyone is aware, the requirements around Texas Rising Star entities using TechPeds to record information came out of input that we received from our most recent Texas Rising Star work group. The work group before that required directors to use TechPeds, and I think as things have evolved and people have begun using the system, the work group then recommended, why don't we make a points-based measure, and the more of your teachers that are using it, the more points you get. So I think it's a testament to people getting more comfortable with the system and making recommendations, for its continued use. I'm also curious, and Tracy Ann, you probably know this. You mentioned we have subject matter experts on TechPeds in each of the board areas. I assume that they're all aware of all of these new features, so that as they're talking to childcare programs in their area, they can share lots of these great enhancements that make the system so much easier to use.
Yes, Reagan, we meet every month with the TechPed specialists, and during that monthly meeting, we give them very in-depth reviews before these tools are even provided for the public, so they get to understand it and how to use it prior to it even being sent out.
Yeah, great. Jennifer, see your hand up.
Yes, Jennifer Stockamer with Ivy Vine Preschool, and I just wanted to acknowledge the distance that TechPeds has come. I have been a TechPeds account holder since probably 2019, when it was very new to us and very difficult and cumbersome and time consuming to use. And I have just recently been reintroduced. I've had the account, but I don't use it much, to be honest. Been reintroduced to it, and I have been impressed, and I'm excited to get to using it more and sharing it with my childcare educators here. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening to the request for easier processes and faster processes, and for responding to that. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yep, it's come a long way.
It has. And our last House Bill 619 work group, the first one actually made this recommendation on a usability study. So this entire usability study came out of another work group that provided input to us. So Jennifer, I'm glad to hear, from the front line that you're seeing sort of the fruits of all of, these investments. So thanks for sharing that. Members, other questions or comments? All right. April, I'm not sure if you see the chat in our Zoom.
I see a question about TechPeds trainings being approved. So we have a 3 to 6 week timeline. On an average basis, we try to turn those around in 1 to 2 weeks. We always like to give the window, and the window is those details are on our website. It really does depend on the busy periods of the year. What we find is trainers will use holidays to put in trainings, and so if you are turning in a training during spring break or the holidays over December, you can expect to see a little bit longer time, and it also depends on if the TechPed staff are out in conferences. We are working at having an additional early childhood content specialists to support that. We're hoping in 2026 that we'll be able to get that additional content expert, because right now Tracy Jones does all of the trainings to ensure that they are of high quality on the team. That's kind of my extra little job that I do. Just know that we can get 200 trainings now turned in 1 month. It has exploded as the organizational dashboard and the registered trainers have come on board. We've got so many users taking advantage of those tools. It doesn't mean that if your particular training is not approved, that it won't be validated. As long as you have already been approved in a core competency area, that training will always be validated. It's just if it's sent out a new core competency. So we do highly recommend that you at least get approved initially in all the core competency areas, so that you, even if you have to wait a little while for a specific training to get approved, you are already approved in the competency area. But we're hoping in 2026 to get an additional staff member for that.
All right. Thank you. All righty. So you guys, with that, we're going to move to our last update under our Texas Early Learning Strategic Plan, and that is the strategic plan work group that the council put together that Kirsten is overseeing for us. So Kirsten, I'll turn it over to you for an update on this work group.
Yeah, thank you, Reagan, and thanks, April, for that. That was a great intro kind of into this whole conversation, because I think we, our group that has been looking at some of these goals really see TechPeds as filling a lot of those things. So that was really great to have that comprehensive presentation to sort of understand better where you guys are going with it. So we have a separate work group that has been meeting frequently as a whole group, but then also breaking off into subgroups to kind of tackle. There's a lot here, and we have a lot of great expertise. So it's been a great strategy so far, and I think the group is feeling really engaged, and that we are really identifying some pathways forward. I will say it's a lot. I think all of you all recognize that, you know, some of these aspirational goals are, you know, figuring out how all of the agencies work together, how we get information across such a big state. All of those things are kind of weighing on all of us. But with that, we have looked at, I will say we have a couple of wins. So to celebrate wins, it's Friday. So let's start with that. We were able to combine goals 2.45 and 2.47. So that is around this notion of retaining early learning workforce professionals in the field by providing educational and social support. And so you can see that the TechPeds strategy really feeds into this. So those two action items, we felt like we could kind of bring that together. And the actual action we came up with was to use TechPeds as a centralized resource for early childhood educators. So that that makes sense. And I think now that you know more about the work that's going on there, you can see how it would definitely meet a number of these goals and action items. So our next step there is to solicit input from known early childhood training entities and to support April and her team as they're, you know, continuing to do this work, and to look for the ways that we can, you know, kind of continue to keep these goals in mind as that work continues. I guess I'll stop there. Any questions about the first part? Yeah, Becky.
I'm on this work group, and one of the trying to get done is because I'm in a listserv with 2 and 4 year campuses that offer early childhood programs. And so I put it out to them to send me information on their programs, and some of them have. There are a lot, and we try to get people from different parts of the state. Some of them have, a lot of them haven't. But another thing that we've had is Kathy Arwood gave me a great big it was an Excel spreadsheet with all of these campuses all across the state that offer early childhood, to have an early childhood program in 2 and 4 years. So I'm still working on that to get links to each of the campuses that have coursework in early childhood, either a 2 or 4 year degree or CDA for credit and all that. And I'm still working on that, and hopefully I'll be able to do more after my semester's a little bit over, but in early May or mid-May on, because I don't teach in the summer. So to get that, and so we'll work with April to have that uploaded somewhere on TechPed, so that's one thing. There's programs all over the place, but if somebody's really wants to get a degree or certificates or whatever, they don't really know. There's not a one-stop shop place to see ones. And some of them are like, we have stuff online. Some of them, are just specific to that area that are face-to-face programs. So those types of designations also, so that more people will have, if they want to go on to the next level or whatever, that they know where to go. And I want to have it more comprehensive than just, hit or miss. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Becky, that is outstanding. I wasn't aware that you were doing that, but I think that's really gonna be a great addition, as you said. And then, as we get that data up there, if there's some mechanism for folks who have programs that aren't on that list, for them to email or let April's team know that there are other programs. I mean, I think having a big part of all of this work is kind of having things in one place, as you said. So, that's outstanding, and really appreciate the extra work you're doing there. Any other
And I'll
comments?
just say, I know that as part of that PDG work, we developed that landscape that Becky's talking about. We have that posted somewhere on our PDG website. I think Kathy can probably find it and drop a link quicker than I can find it. So Becky, I'm glad that you were able to put that to good use. And I love the action for all of the council members to really encourage folks to use TechPeds for all of their early childhood educators. I think that's clearly something that's really actionable, that all members should be able to help promote and get the word out about the benefits of using TechPeds. Okay, Kirsten, back to you.
Yeah, that's great. And we're certainly willing to help get the word out too with our audience, which generally is a lot of parents and folks that are caregivers. So happy to help in that regard. So the other side of this is kind of a little bit of the messier, with my word, in terms of that our group met and we really kind of explored some of these things, but need more input from this group to kind of figure out where how to move these things forward. So in the strategy 2.1, the goal is to increase financial support of the early learning workforce. And specifically, the action is TELC will explore forming public-private partnerships to support the workforce, including support for the workforce through philanthropy and corporate support. And this feels like something that's outside of the purview of the state agency folks and others. So we wanted to kind of explore with the council, how would we go about kind of beginning this, or what would be kind of the early steps and early action and the next steps on this goal. So just to make this a little bit easier on everybody, we put together some questions. So would love your feedback on these two things. So starting with guidance for the role the TELC would like the work group to take with this specific item, and what the kind of clarification of what the council is looking for with this strategy. And then secondly, well, let's start with that. So is anybody prepared to give us some thoughts on where what was behind this particular action and how you think we might move this forward?
So I think there was a lot of recognition that there has been a great deal of interest in early childhood issues. And how do you have the ability to leverage public-private partnerships? I think that there's some legislation that's a great example right now that Early Matters and the Texas Restaurant Association have been very involved in. You know, trying to look at this idea of how do you get employers engaged in childcare. I think that's, you know, certainly one form of public-private partnerships, but I think that's part of the issue is, you know, what are the other strategies that might be out there so that you engage with other private entities that may have an interest in this topic?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good point. And a number of corporate entities that are putting together their own, you know, childcare solutions, and how do we engage with them and include them in this work as well?
yeah, I think one of the things that the Texas Workforce Commission is doing, again, in an effort to try to help employers who want to get engaged in this issue, is we have a procurement right now to try to identify entities that can provide technical assistance to employers who are interested in helping to address the childcare needs of their employees. So how do you get those private businesses engaged? And oftentimes they don't know where to start. So is there a way that we can provide some technical assistance to them? That was, you know, one of the strategies that we're implementing right now, that we're still in the procurement phase. So those services are yet to come.
Great.
Yeah, it's part of the challenge. And Kirsten, I'm trying to remember the conversation we had in the work group. Maybe part of it is like, I think we can come up with concrete examples of successful public-private partnerships that have supported the workforce, but it's this idea of how TELC will explore forming them. So like, is it that as members of the Early Learning Council, we sort of kind of embrace public-private partnership as one of the ways in our home organizations that we work to expand this kind of support? Or is it that we as TELC are kind of going to put together like examples of successful public-private partnerships, you know, to kind of promote knowledge building in the system about how this has been done successfully? Or is it that TELC is actually going to form public-private partnerships? You know, or
Right.
I
Thank
think
you,
that was
April.
the-
That is kind of where the conversation went, I think, because it feels a little more general in the action description. So what does this group think the, you know, the overarching goal was here? And those are three really good questions, or three really good ways to look at it. Does anybody have any memory of, you know, as we were doing this, kind of where we,
Yeah.
I mean, and part of this is also thinking about success, and, you know, we can, you know, layer the you know, the practical on this. But I, you know, I think if it's more aspirational, as April suggested, that it's, you know, how do we facilitate these kinds of partnerships? Or is it something that's really concrete, that's like, here is a list of best practices, strategies, and examples? Or is it more of a function of this council that we are going to actually form some public-private partnerships?
I'm not sure that the council has the ability to form a public-private partnership. Becky, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I agree with what they were saying because I can remember, I'm on that, it's that same group I'm on. But I think that it can be both and because you can have examples like case study type things, that we're not promoting it, but we're suggesting this could be a way. But then as Reagan was saying, that what the Texas Workforce Commission could offer in there would be technical assistance and stuff like that. So you could have like little I do qualitative research, like little case studies of here's how the Moody Foundation did whatever, or here's some examples, that we're not promoting them, but here are some good examples from around the state. And that here is, if you're interested in this, here's what our members can do would be technical. Here's how we could contribute to that would be technical assistance if you are interested. So it's kind of a both and, like, we're not bringing them together, but we're showing that this is a potential way to promote early care and education and help the workforce by giving them, like, for instance, one of my practicum students is doing her practicum in Houston at the Chase Bank Bright Horizons Drop-In Center. So the Chase Bank, and that's for people in the downtown Houston area, have a drop-in center, but it's by Chase Bank. So for instance, and they're NYC accredited, and they're probably TWC and all that type stuff too. But you could say, okay, here's an example, with their permission, as that, and then here's what Texas Workforce, if you're interested in doing that, here's some examples, you can ask them. But then we can offer technical assistance to anyone who is interested in doing something like that. Oh, that's just a suggestion.
I agree with that, Becky. I can speak to how DSHS has public and private partnerships in regards to Texas Mother-Friendly work sites. So DSHS does provide TA for any private organization that wants to be designated as a Texas Mother-Friendly work site. So it's not necessarily that TELC would be forming the relationships, but we could collectively put together like best practices to develop those partnerships based off what we are already currently doing. I don't think we're in a position that we could actually form those relationships though, or partnerships.
So generally, I think the first two things that April laid out, without taking this to actually forming, is what I'm hearing from this group. That
Jennifer has a
oh, I'm
question.
sorry, I can't see everyone. Oh, I see you, Jennifer. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like this gets very abstract very quickly because as the owner of a private childcare facility, I feel like I have the autonomy and the opportunity to build these connections with philanthropy and corporate support. So somebody putting out a report that says, hey, this is a great idea, is not super helpful if there's not a lot of support behind it. Like, how do you get started? Who do you contact? What works? What are the steps, the actionable steps I can take? And even if I had all of that lined out for me, I don't know any childcare director who's not already spread so thin that we just can't take on another maybe. So it would almost be more helpful to say these are corporate organizations or these are philanthropy organizations that are committed to doing this and having some kind of matching system rather than just going out on our own and trying to locate this resource or this idea, because that's going to be almost impossible and probably not super helpful. And we're told a lot of what should work and what could work, but when it gets down to actually making it work, that's a whole different experience.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Kind of thinking of it from your Kim, you were gonna add to that?
Yeah, just kind of building off of what Jennifer was saying. I think the question that we have is, do we want something forward facing for childcare providers to set up these partnerships? Or is the real need, and I hear you, Jennifer, you guys have been, you do all, you know, you're there. Or is the real need, how do we help the Chase banks? How do we help those people come to the table and so I think that's just something that as we mull over this one, how do we, who's that audience and what's the purpose behind it? So is it really focused on the childcare centers and helping them, or is it focused on businesses, or both?
Thank you. That's the succinct description of what my long-winded comment was, but thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think your point is well taken, that the childcare workforce and the centers are, you know, under a lot of pressure, you know, day to day. So are there ways that we can, but we know that there's some benefit. And I love Kim's reframing of this to kind of think about, you know, the corporate sector may want to be a part of this and have solutions, but how do we build a process so that those things can be matched? So that makes a lot of sense to me. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? I guess we, you know, because we did use this term, Reagan, we do use this term form. So I don't know, you know, not wordsmithing here, but just is there, you know, do we want to kind of think about some counsel from this group about, you know, how we want to approach this? There's been some great suggestions today. Or what can we do in that regard?
Yeah, and I guess it depends on how all of the council members feel, because as a group, we each represent our individual organization. As the council, we bring all of these perspectives together. If we're talking about public-private partnerships, Kim, I think you asked a good question. You know, who are we aiming this at? Are we aiming to find best practices? Are we aiming to identify strategies to promote these? I think that's the challenge. It's very easy to put in a strategic plan, and then when it comes time to think about actionable strategies, what do we all feel like we have the capacity to do in our individual roles with our organizations?
Reagan, I know there is a piece of legislation going through the process about an employer-based website, resource website piece. I mean, it's in the process, so we'll see where that ends up. And try not to get the cart ahead of the horse. But if that passes, would that be a place that something like this could potentially live? Because that's geared towards the non-childcare businesses.
It is,
So
and in
I'm
fact,
just wondering if that's
we actually already have a Texas Work and Family Policies clearinghouse, or it's not a clearinghouse anymore. I mean, we actually have a website now, and I think what this bill would do is it would ask us to sort of build on that website and on what we already have published. And I think those are things that we actually now plan on doing. I think that the Senate bill passed out of the Senate yesterday, so it's moving. And in fact, we've already started talking about how do we add more resources. I don't know that it's a component of public-private partnerships, certainly. I don't know that it's everything about a public-private partnership, but certainly information that we provide out to businesses about how they can become familiar with family-friendly work policies and other types of early childhood issues, you know, is one strategy to engage those private entities.
I guess, and Stephanie, I'll say this and then I'll let you talk. I'll be quiet. I guess I think thinking about that bill moving, thinking about what you guys already have, and thinking about what else is needed, and doing some type of analysis of those three components to know what else is needed. We have these components, and then what else is there, and then making a determination is, you know, is that the angle that we want to go forward with?
Stephanie.
I was just thinking, just as maybe the value of the Early Learning Council, given the work we've done, is a little bit about maybe talking about sort of the principles and the goals and like the value of things, because there's probably partnerships that could happen in 100 different ways, right? And some of them are focused on increasing access to more families. There are other goals around supporting the child care partner, with additional resources through public dollars. There's getting more businesses interested in ensuring their employees have access to childcare. So there's different goals in mind, and maybe one place for the council is to sort of uplift, like, what are the most important ones, or the ones that will have maybe the biggest impact on the most families and the most providers. Because I always hesitate to think about partnerships in a resource limited environment is sharing the same resources among now a couple of entities, and are we forcing people together without really a benefit, figuring out what the benefit is, blending and braiding resources. Maybe there's more resources, and in some I think legislative proposals there are some incentives, financial incentives for partnerships, which is great. But also, like, how do we maintain quality at early learning through the melding of different systems is also, questions that come up. Like, are there different teacher qualifications that should be in one system versus the other? And depending on, which seat your child has, you might have a teacher with different credentials, and that might be okay. But, there's also this sort of what's the most important thing to ensure the most families get affordable, high quality early learning, no matter which system they're entering in is. So, I guess I'm thinking a little bit, maybe some value we can add is sort of wading through and thinking, like, what should the main goals be of partnerships? Given that we are a body of, different constituencies. And so that going forward, it's like, hey, the top goal is more families have more options, and the providers can benefit from additional resources, and, quality is still high. However, Kirsten, you want to kind of help lead this through. I think you've been involved in local partnerships, and some are really tough, and if they're really, really tough, they're not going to scale up. So, and then I guess it's the question is technical assistance is super helpful, but so is like a local backbone. Resources are great, but every community is a little different. So we can't, there's no one size fits all in a partnership, I guess, is kind of one principle we have to accept, right? And I'm still thinking a lot about, are we making sure that the kids served by the scholarship subsidy system are prioritized, over higher income families. And we have other strategies for the higher income families too, but sort of thinking about the balance given the use of public dollars, I guess.
All right. So Kirsten, how does that work for some feedback right now on this issue?
I think that's really good feedback. Is actually coming from a number of folks that are part of the work group, but I love that. So I would like to suggest, if everybody agrees, that we kind of go back now that we've gotten this feedback from the council and kind of talk through some of those strategies and determine how we could do those things. And Stephanie, thank you. That was really good guidance, because I think we do want all of these things to fit into the greater goal of, maintaining and securing more resources for families, and, all the things that you mentioned, particularly quality, comes through in many of these goals. So yeah, just sort of now that we've had this conversation, maybe go back and work on this some more, and then bring some recommendations forward if everyone agrees.
Yeah, that sounds good. And if we need to think about, it shouldn't be explore forming, we should somehow think about explore supporting.
Yeah.
If that makes more sense, I think council members, are you guys all open to thinking? Okay, I'm seeing some heads nodding, so yes. Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So then the other thing that has come up in these discussions is, and this also was poignant for me in the survey data that UT Tyler found in talking with centers directly about behavioral and mental health conditions and how that's growing or changing and the needs are different. And so we wanted to have a thoughtful reflection on that action, which is the discussing trainings for children with behavioral and mental health conditions. And there were a number of suggestions for how to address programs that turn students away, as April mentioned, and then, just training in general, how much time childcare providers are given on these subjects, and then sort of continuing that education, because as things are expanding and growing, I think that this is one of those areas where continuous training is needed. And then we also discussed how to make centers aware of the ECI system and therapists, so that they can help funnel those resources to families, and making sure that that loop is closed and that they know how to access the ECI system. So we could use some help, because this is important and a big item, and it definitely came out in the survey as being a big need for the field. How does the council suggest we try to meet this goal? And what are the things that we should be thinking of as we kind of continue? I would assume continue this focus on this topic.
Yeah, Kirsten, I was just gonna say, I don't know if Holly is still on the call, but Holly Gorslin is kind of a state, treasurer on early childhood mental health at UT. And so she, that I think, I still think of these, early childhood supports as not just a training opportunity, but like a real partnership opportunity, because like, how do we embed, whether it's training or just, pedagogy about kind of classroom management and other things into the kind of pipeline of education programs? How do we make sure that like local mental health authorities or others, that ECI programs have relationships with childcare, as you mentioned, not just to get referrals to ECI, but they also know a lot about, developmental delays and other sort of mental health supports that are needed for parents too. I mean, early childhood mental health in some ways is also a 2-gen approach there. And there's also mental health of childcare educators who struggle. And it's one of those things where the discussion, at least at the state level, has been a lot about, kids who are coming to school with such bad behaviors that it's like, risking the health and well-being of other children and of teachers, and, some really terrible examples. But there's also, kids, they're not arriving at early learning programs like that. They have some things going on at home. They have maybe some special education needs that haven't been addressed. Parents don't really know where to turn. And so again, this is, Holly, I know, has looked into this, and there's a lot of writing that she's done on it. And I guess I would encourage maybe for us to think about a partnership with their group too, and have a little bit more discussion about, I think they're developing kind of a roadmap, and I don't want us to duplicate that effort or try to go around it, because she and her team are awesome. Holly, if you're still there, will you put your
Yeah,
in the,
she
chat?
responded in the
Okay.
chat. I guess she's not a panelist. We can't.
Oh,
Can
okay.
we Can we invite her to say something or?
I mean, you know, Holly also would be a great person to have as a, you know, a guest, you know, as a public speaker, guest speaker in the future,
So,
especially on infant early childhood mental health.
so I think I'm wondering, do we want to put that on the agenda?
Yeah.
Since
Yeah,
there's so much interest in this, I mean, when we were getting the Tech Peds updates, that was one of the things you're asking about, Stephanie, and it's
Yeah.
coming up now with this work group. It does seem like perhaps a topic for our next council meeting.
Because she and her team are already leading, you know, have
Yep.
had work groups for long periods of time, and we should just really benefit from that.
Yeah.
Great work.
yeah,
All
that
right.
sounds like a great, so Reagan, you're thinking inviting her to share some of the work they're doing on this, on our next,
Mhm.
early learning camp. Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then ways that we could be helpful too.
Yeah, and
Becky?
definitely agree, Stephanie, that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's a
Right, I know.
lot
Yeah.
of goals that we have here and trying to meet all of those. And many of them kind of rest on these partnerships and just including information about these things on the TELC website, but also
Right.
linking up with, you know, the other agency and then the forward facing site for families. So just, you know, trying to navigate all of that is a lot, but appreciate that suggestion. Thank you. And Holly, we'd love to hear from you next time. Becky, you were gonna add?
The only thing I wanted to mention is in link to what I had mentioned about the different programs across the state. I did send, because the one person asked me to send exactly what I wanted. And so I just copied and pasted this down, and some of the programs did specifically give coursework or whatever on this area. Not everybody did, but some of them did. And so that's another right, and also Texas Children's Hospital has some training type things too that are free. So I have one of my former students, Diane Cowlin, does a lot of trainings, and so I can get with her also as a suggestion to see what trainings they have for free to the public for this too.
That's great. Becky, any resources we can add for our next council meeting would be great to have. Okay.
Well, thank you, Reagan.
Kirsten, thank you very much. Lots of good discussion. Okay, so with that, we're going to move to our next update. Those are legislative updates, and we have Stephanie Rubin and Kim Coffrin who have given us some slides. So Stephanie, let me turn it over to you. Looks like your slides are up first.
Sure. So we have a slide on some budget movement, and also on some good bills that are moving forward in our kind of prenatal to, you know, 3 space. And so on the budget side, there was just a long budget day was yesterday. One of the budget bills is HB 500, which is kind of known as the supplemental budget. And through lots of amazing work from the childcare community, and David Fagan on my team has just been dogged on this, and Representative Wally, with the support of the speaker and Chair Bonin of the Appropriations Committee, have in the House budget $100 million to reduce the child care scholarship wait list. And that would, Reagan can, there's probably some updated numbers on the size of the wait list, somewhere 80,000-ish. And the hope is that if we can secure $100 million, that would help communities reduce by about 10,000-ish families on the wait list. And that would be, you know, that would happen very quickly after the bill goes into effect, I think.
So I will say it's 100 million for 2 years. So you won't, and
Right.
it is about 10,000 kids.
Right.
The wait list can grow. We're already at 90. So I will say we can serve 10,000 kids. It doesn't mean the wait list goes down.
That's true.
So
Good point. Yes. Well, so I mean, that's, you know, that's a good argument too, because one of the, you know, we do have a surplus, so we are a state with a surplus, and we do have this growing need, which has been part of the argument, and TWC and, the local workforce boards are prepared to get this money out the door, which is also a great benefit. So the bill now will go to the Senate, and there will be some, negotiation, I assume, on lots of provisions on the budget. So, but that's very exciting because we did start the session with 0 in the first version of the budget on the House side. So this is great work. And then there's also this is the first time since I've been working on ECI anyway that the both the House and the Senate increased funding in their versions of the budget for ECI. So it's an additional 18 million, and that was very skillfully requested by HHSE and their LAR, and we really appreciate them including this increase in their exceptional items, really making a case that the programs and families needed this extra support. So we're hoping that funding, which will stay in the budget, it's given that it's in both sides, it probably will, but you never know what happens in the next, I think we're 51 days left, something like that. Or 51 days done. So we're getting pretty far in session. And then in both House and Senate budget, there is 500 million. There is fully funding the HHSC's request for Medicaid eligibility technology to make sure families can get seamlessly enrolled. And so that's fabulous. Again, that was requested by the agency with lots of support from outside groups. And that's some of the main, budget implications that are in the budget bills. So on the next slide, we can talk about some other bills that have movement. Kim will cover some of these too. Maybe Kim, I'll leave the 462 for you to talk about if you want. Representative Busey, this is a bill that was introduced last session too and got through the House. And so far we've been approved by a House subcommittee, but this would notify parents if their children are eligible for Medicaid coverage using SNAP enrollment. And so this bill would just make it very easy for children who are involved in, SNAP or other programs like that to easily enroll in Medicaid. And I'll skip over the next one, which Kim can cover because that's a big child care coalition bill. HB 2, which is a big school funding bill, has a provision that we and others have been pushing, which would extend pre-K eligibility to children with disabilities. So that is included in the bill at this time. And there's other conversations in other bills around fully funding or funding full day pre-K through the enrollment, funding. Right now, districts get half day pre-K funding, even though they have to provide full day pre-K, and they use their early learning allotment or other funds to support the other half a day. And districts have made it pretty clear that they would just really like full day pre-K funding, and the early learning allotment would cover, so many other needs that they have for young children. So that's still being discussed. And then HB 136 by Representative Hull this is sort of on the Medicaid side. The next two would cover lactation consultants in Medicaid, which is wonderful. I suspect lots of women use them and then they have to pay out of pocket, but that has not been a Medicaid eligible service so far, and that got approved by the House committee. And then HB 1201 by Rep. Manuel. There are a few doula related bills. This one was approved by House committee. This would be a pilot program that would provide Medicaid coverage for doulas pregnant at the pregnancy stage or postpartum stage. So we'll see whether that one moves forward. And so there's some good movement on some things. There's also discussion around in pre-K, the early learning allotment is calculated based on the number of kids kindergarten through third, I think, but it doesn't include the number of pre-K eligible kids, and that would give districts more accurate funding to support their population. So that's another goal of the early learning community, and we'll see whether that moves forward. There's just so much negotiation in the education bills right now that those debates and decisions still haven't been made yet. So I will end there in case anyone has any questions on those. And then I don't have a slide here on the federal side. You know, maybe at some point later we can have more of a discussion as data are coming in about the impact of you know, the loss of large numbers of federal employees who work in the early learning departments, about whether, you know, how is that affecting programs and services and technical assistance, things like that in Texas might be a topic we could consider. But you know, there's also proposed $800 billion cuts that would impact Medicaid at the federal level. That decision hasn't been made yet. The House and Senate are not exactly on the same place at the federal level, but that would be a huge challenge for Texas. And I'm just going to put in the chat, it's really important, I think, for people to understand what Medicaid, who is covered by Medicaid in Texas. And, you know, we haven't expanded Medicaid like other states. So we, you know, Medicaid is really largely children, pregnant women, postpartum women, and some other vulnerable populations, you know, families, people with disabilities, seniors with, you know, nursing homes, etc. So there was some effort to help explain sort of who Medicaid really covers in Texas as the negotiations go forward at the federal level. Kim.
The federal stuff. As we're all anxiously waiting to see what that is. And I just want to take another pause and just give all of ourselves a cheer and a pat on the back for the money that is in childcare. It's the first time in history Texas has done this. It's not through the Senate yet, and we have an uphill battle there, and we know that. But at the House, you know, we just started asking for money last session, and making them aware that this is a need. And kudos to all of us, and especially David, who's worked tirelessly on this, to really share our stories and making sure our representatives know what the needs are of families and providers out there. And kudos to TWC for having a great program that they trust to invest in, and that's kudos to the whole system. So super excited about that. Some bills that are moving. So the top three have companions, and have been the focus of our prenatal 3 collaborative and children at risk. So Senate Bill 972 and House Bill 2294 is looking at reimbursement rates. This allows local workforce boards to fill in the gap from what the providers charge parents and what the TWC's established rate is with local dollars. So it's just making it permissible. Us long-term childcare advocates, we want the big thing. This is the small thing, but it's a thing that needs to get done, so the big thing can eventually happen at some point. So it was heard in both the House and Senate committees. So we are hoping that one continues to move through the process. Senate Bill 599 and HB 4127. This is specifically around family childcare homes. We are still seeing a decrease in our childcare homes from 2019. It's still going in the wrong direction, and so this is hoping to reduce local restrictions on childcare homes on top of minimum standards. So keeping minimum standards is the same, but sometimes cities and counties add additional things that is prohibitive, and so this would eliminate that piece. Those are also both been heard in committee. 599 is now over at the House side, so we hope to do a little swap-a-roo and get this approved on that end, and then onto the House floor for approval. So Senate Bill 462 and HB 3807, this is the one that was on Stephanie's slide as well. It is prioritizing childcare professionals that are working in childcare that meet the income eligibility, getting them prioritized on the wait list. I know this has been excites all of us to have this possibility. Again, it's been heard on both sides, out of committee and the Senate. And so they are both moving as well. The other 5 bills are also bills that we are watching closely. And it's House Bill 117. This is coming from the governor's office, creating a task force looking at early child governance. This has been something that we have in the advocacy community have talked about for years, and the governor pulled it together this year. So we're excited about this piece, but it will give us time in the interim to really dig into, as we all know, childcare touches multiple state agencies. And so talking about how can we, what that best governance structure would look like and have discussions around that. House Bill 175 is specifically, this is exciting for those of us that were on the TRS work group. We talked about badging and getting additional badging that has been popular in QRS systems. And this is one on children with special needs. And so that center can choose, it's optional. So looking forward to see where that one goes. 460 is around a study on the cost of childcare in comparison to family income. Really looking at what would the cost be if we wanted to really serve everybody on that wait list? What would that and then how does that compare to family income and so forth? House Bill 2271 is looking at our requiring centers to have enrollment data collected. We now look at capacity data, but don't have truly what programs have for enrollment. And then House Bill 3191 is Button's big omnibus bill. It's got that part of that employer website that we talked about earlier. It also has an employer match program for employers and states and parents collectively to pull money towards. There's some franchise tax initiatives for businesses. And then there is also a pilot project similar to the Tarrant County Prime budget or pilot that they're doing up there. So lots of good stuff in that one. So those all were just heard this week. So we will be watching and seeing what the next steps are for all of those. So lots of good bills. There's over 60 bills on early childhood filed this year. So we are keeping our eyes on trying to track all of them, but these are the ones that are particularly moving. And Megan, I'm going to ask you to remind me of the number for the ESIDS one, because I did not add that to the slide.
3963.
3963, and that one's also in the moving along in the process as well. So that and those of us that were on the ESIDS subcommittee of TELC, it is pushing that work forward as well. So
yeah. And
so
Kim, I will say that the child care priority bill passed the Senate yesterday.
Oh,
so that
thank you.
bill has already made it out of one chamber. So that one appears to be moving.
Moving too. See, things move so fast, you just can't keep up. So,
I know. I know. All right.
You work on a slide and it's, obsolete by the end of the day. So
by the next time we meet, we'll know which of these things actually made it all the way through. So lots happening and more to come in the coming months. Thanks to both of you for these updates. Appreciate it. Okay, so we are going to go to some other TELC member updates. Our first one is from TWC. Kathy, you've got an update for us?
Yes, and for the first part of this update, Kim set us up really well. So she mentioned the kind of declining family childcare home providers, and so this one is partially aimed at bringing that back up. So we're excited to talk about our statewide family childcare network, and we have awarded Civitas Strategies Early Start. Some of you will remember them as they were administering the business coaching and also childcare expansion initiative during our COVID stimulus dollar days. So they are going to be also implementing this family childcare network in partnership with Shine Early Learning and United Way of Texas. So all three great organizations that I look forward to seeing how they implement. And I want to mention just a few of the things that that home-based childcare owners will now have access to. So it will be online business resources available in English and Spanish, group one-on-one business coaching, shared services, which will include childcare case management system, healthcare access, and technology access. They'll have in-person regional meetings in 10 areas across the state and 2 special statewide events. So this gives an opportunity for that networking that a lot of family child care providers don't have. They're often one person alone with the children all day long. So we're really excited about having these opportunities, and that's going to be every month. And then to help build the supply of childcare, we're offering mini grants of up to $15,000 for new licensed or registered home-based providers, or those moving from maybe listed to registered, or listed or registered to licensed. So we're excited about that. It's really to help reduce the burden, that kind of comes with some of the licensing regulations, to help them make sure that they are meeting those, and can help cover the cost. If that bill that Kim mentioned doesn't move forward, this would help cover the cost of some of those zoning fees and things like that, and permitting fees that they might have. And then
Kathy, I know the second one we talked about at the last meeting, we only have 4 minutes left. So if you can, I hate to rush you, but we have one more update after you.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the network is going to include an advisory board of home-based providers. So that's going to be a really great update. So watch out for this to launch in the summer. And then, yes, we mentioned the Early Educator Pathways program last time. I just want to mention that the application deadline is May 31st. So please encourage any colleges and universities that that have early childhood pathways to put in an application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mandy from TEA, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon. Happy, beautiful Friday. The 2 things I want to talk about today is some resources that we just launched on our Texas SPED support site. The Determining the Least Restrictive Environment in Preschool is an excellent guide. This is for educators. It's for people who serve on ARD committees, and talks about continuum of services and placement determinations to support those ARD committees. So I absolutely I'm requesting, please share this information with anyone you can. The link is on the bottom of this slide here. And then the second thing, I think that Terry probably already announced this last time, but we have an ECSE, an Empowering ECSE Educators to Improve Student Outcomes grant. And the application closed on March 7th for this year. And we had 3 times the amount of monies requested. And we're trying to pull money into that one so that we can give out as much money as we can through these grants. But we suspect there'll be a significant amount of interest for next year, and the opening date for that 25-26 school year has not been determined yet. However, we plan on opening it very early, much earlier than the first window that happened in 24-25. So please get this information out. It is a great grant to help LEAs and ESCs push out professional development for ECSE educators, as well as get these professionals duly certified. So check it out. It's great.
Thank you. Highly competitive grant. People should take a look at it early so they're ready to apply, because it sounds like there's a lot more demand than you have funding.
Yes, there was, but we hope to get more funding for next year. So we didn't realize the interest would be so large. So
all right, Mandy, thank you very much. Okay, questions for our last 2 presenters from any council members? We will move on to updates on early childhood events. Shruti, I believe you have an update for us.
I do. So the Texas Developmental Screening and Surveillance, we call it ECHO, is housed through UT, School of Public Health. We are having webinars the second Friday of every month from 1 to 2 p.m. So if anyone is interested, we can share the link so you guys can register for those webinars.
That's great. Is that something you can drop in the chat?
I can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Do any other members have updates on upcoming events?
Reagan, I'm dropping in the chat. Our spring Texas tour starts next week. So it's virtual, so you can register and find the city near you. We are also doing a statewide one at the end of the tour, so I think it's May 6th. So if you can't make your city, you can come to the statewide one as well. So
Oh,
there's
good.
that.
All right. Wonderful. Any other members have updates? And Megan, why don't we'll leave the meeting up for a little bit so people can get into the chat and get those links. All right. Any other updates? Okay. Folks, thank you for the sprint at the end. Apologies to our last few presenters, but we managed to conclude at 1 o'clock. Reminder that our next meeting is scheduled for August the 8th. Members, thank you very much. It's 1 o'clock and the Texas Early Learning Council meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.